Okay, we need to speak seriously about Manchester United's transfer window.
£214.2 million spent. The likes of Cunha, Šeško and Buemo. What are your thoughts on?
Because what we've just seen is not just a summer of business, it's the opening act of a revolution. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has opened the chequebook, and for the first time in years, United fans feel that maybe, just maybe, the sleeping giant has finally woken up. The arrivals came thick and fast. Matheus Cunha from Wolves, a forward with Premier League pedigree. Diego Leon, a raw gem from Cerro Porteño. Brian Mbeumo from Brentford, bringing energy and goals from the flanks. And then came the big headline moves. Benjamin Šeško, the striker United fans have been dreaming about, prized away from Red Bull Leipzig. And finally, the shock addition of Belgian keeper Senne Lammens, signed after the horror shows of Onana and Bayanda, made it clear that the goalkeeping crisis could no longer be ignored. But it wasn't just about who came in, it was about who finally left. Rashford, once the poster boy of the academy, shipped off to Barcelona. Garnacho, the wonder kid, gone to Chelsea in a move that shook the fan base. Antony, Sancho, Højlund all moved on. United cleaned house, ripping off the plaster and sending a message. A player who doesn't perform will leave the club.
Players wanting to leave Man United is the bigger story, because Man United was the club that no one wanted to leave, or very rarely do people want to leave Man United. Man United leaves them.
And still, questions remain. The midfield, the very heart of Ruben Amorim's system, wasn't strengthened as Amorim hoped. Carlos Baleba was the number one target, but that deal never happened. For now, United must trust in what they've got. And yes, the project is still raw, still imperfect. But make no mistake, this is the beginning of Project 90. Ratcliffe has planted the flag. Amorim has promised that the good days are coming. And while this season won't end with a title parade, the first steps are solid, and the path back to the top has finally begun. Ruben Amorim wants Manchester United to suffocate rivals. His vision is clear, a team that doesn't just play football, but overwhelms every opponent they face. Since arriving 10 months ago, the Portuguese coach has pushed hard for a system built on control and superiority. The shape he trusts most is the 3-4-3, a setup designed to always create the extra man. In the build-up, it means having calm options at the back. In attack, it means finding overloads around the box, making sure there is always one red devil free to strike the fatal blow. This summer's transfer window feels like a turning point. Over £200 million has been invested, not just on potential, but on starters who can immediately shape Amorim's system. Alongside that, the exits of big names have cut away some of the old weight holding the squad back. The result? A Manchester United squad that finally looks like it has the raw materials Amorim needs to bring his vision to life. Yes, problems remain. There are still question marks about the midfield depth, and the defence has looked shaky at times. But compared to last year, this squad is sharper, quicker, and more balanced. Now the big question is, how will Amorim line them up? What does his strongest 11 look like with these new weapons at his disposal? Manchester United walked into this summer window carrying the scars of their darkest Premier League season. A 15th place finish, the worst in their history, was not just a disappointment, it was an embarrassment.
We need to survive now. So, we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United.
To make matters worse, they stumbled in the Europa League final against Tottenham, losing the chance of Champions League football. That failure made this summer not just important, but absolutely decisive. For Ruben Amorim, who only arrived last November, this was the first real chance to shape his squad. And he wasted no time. Matheus Cunha came in early, Brian Mbeumo followed, Benjamin Šeško was secured. Insert and on deadline day, Senne Lammens arrived to fix the disaster in goal. At the same time, Old Trafford saw big names leave. Antony and Alejandro Garnacho were sold on permanent deals to Chelsea and Betis, while Rashford, Sancho and Højlund were all sent out on loan. Painful exits, yes, but also necessary to reset the dressing room. This wasn't chaos, it was strategy. United's new transfer approach is driven by data, analysis and a clear long-term vision. 4 key questions shape their work. Is this squad stronger than last season's? Did they land their primary targets? Do the signings fit the right age, profile and cost? And did they finally cut ties with the high earners outside Amorim's plans? The answer, brutally, is yes to all 4. That doesn't mean the problems are solved, far from it. United is a juggernaut that has been drifting off course for years. They are still miles away from Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham or City. But here's the key difference. Now they are steering in the right direction. United's transfer strategy this summer has been simple, strategic, and is being based increasingly on data. The hierarchy at Old Trafford knows it will take several windows to get the squad where they want it to be, and there will be some imbalance and some pain in the meantime. Amorim is fully on board with that plan. Financial restrictions mean that they have had to prioritise, and it's very clear that the priority has been to make United an attacking force again, even if that means putting other positions of need on the back burner. So why did Manchester United throw more than £200 million into attack while leaving other areas waiting? The answer is brutal in its simplicity: goals. Last season, United scored fewer than anyone outside the bottom three. Only Everton were worse. For a club built on attacking glory, that was nothing short of shameful.
I watched Forest the other night. I was kicking my cups of tea over. I was watching it. All I hear was they're neat and tidy, but they were never going to score. Never going to score.
Jason Wilcox and his team studied the wreckage of last season and came to one clear conclusion: United had forgotten how to scare teams. Old Trafford was no longer a place of fear. That had to change. So the money went into firepower. Matheus Cunha, £62.5 million. Brian Mbumo, £71 million. Benjamin Sesko, £73.7 million. 3 forwards, 3 statements of intent, and together a promise that United will never again be toothless in front of goal. The defence may still need work, the midfield may not yet be perfect. But this was about restoring the club's identity. United have always been about attack, and Amorim knows that to wake up a sleeping giant, you don't whisper, you roar.
I think we proved today that we can win any game in the Premier League, especially against a great team.
Before United went after those 3 forwards, the process was meticulous. Analysts crunched the data, scouts travelled the continent, and only when both reports matched did the club settle on a final pecking order. It was hearts and minds working together. For United, Cunha, Mbeumo and Sesko were the best in class for the exact roles Amorim needed.
The mobility in the front areas now is something, as a defender, I'm looking at and I'm thinking differently about Manchester United's front line. I'll be sitting there going, I'm going to have a physical presence up there, I'm going to have a physical test from all 3 positions, and I've got people that can run and move up there. They're mobile. They're the things I was asking for the last couple of years up there.
Each came at what the club considered fair market value, with salaries aligned to the new structure. No reckless splashing, just strategic investment. The numbers told a brutal truth. If United wanted to climb back up the table, they simply had to score more goals. Goals were oxygen, more vital than keeping them out at the other end. Had they repeated last season's tally, it would have been mathematically impossible to crack the top 6. And yet, here's the paradox. On paper, United's defence was not the worst. Outside of the Premier League's top 9, only Everton and Crystal Palace conceded fewer. Strange, considering United still shipped 54 goals in 38 games and finished with a goal difference of -10, their 3rd worst defensive record in the modern era, and the 2nd time in 5 years they've sunk that low. So let's be clear. The recruitment team knows the back line, and midfield still needs strengthening. But fixing the lack of goals was more urgent, something that could not wait. And if you want proof of how carefully United are planning, just look at their goalkeeping targets. Plenty of fans still ask the same question. Why on earth would Manchester United turn down a World Cup winner like Emiliano Martinez, a proven monster between the posts, and instead choose an unproven 23-year-old in Sene Lammens?
First thing that stands out about him, he's like baby De Gea. In terms of, oh my God, this team is absolutely leaking shots, and this goalkeeper is just about keeping his team in it. He has the baby De Gea-ness to him. One thing that really impressed me.
The answer lies in the long game. Martinez is 33. He'd have cost over £30 million, demanded massive wages, and offered 0 resale value. Donnarumma, meanwhile, was snapped up by City on deadline day. United made a different call. They chose to invest in the future. And here's where it gets interesting. Strip away the reputation and look at the numbers. Lammens actually stacks up well. Since the start of last season, he has faced more shots per 90 than any of his rivals, 5.3, compared to Martinez on 3.9 and Onana on 3.9. And despite that pressure, his goals conceded per 90 stands at 1.2, better than Onana and Martinez, who both sit at 1.26. Clean sheets, Lammens kept 10 in the league last season, more than Martinez with 8, and level with Onana across all competitions. And the advanced metrics are even more striking. His goals prevented figure sits at 18.6. That means he saved nearly 19 goals more than expected, while Martinez managed 1.5 and Onana just 1.5 as well. Distribution. Again, Lammens leads the pack. He averages 7.3 successful long passes per 90 compared to Martinez on 5.6 and Onana on 4.5. He's not just a shot stopper, he's a modern goalkeeper built to launch attacks. Of course, he isn't perfect. His sweeping numbers 0.29 per 90 lag behind Martinez and even Bayunda. And yes, his aggression when claiming high balls sometimes leaves him exposed. But United's data analysis team believe that's easier to refine than a goalkeeper who hides on his line. So when you put it all together, it makes sense. Martinez might be the safe option, but Lammens is the future. A bet built on raw talent, elite metrics, and the chance to develop into United's next great number one. Just £17.3 million, half the price of Martinez. A good deal as far as United were concerned. Manchester United's so-called bomb squad has finally been dismantled.
Which players would you keep then? Which players would you hang your hat on and say, right, okay, for 3 or 4 years we can probably, to be fair, build around
I said this last year, and it's the same again. I keep Bruno and Mainu, the young ones, but I think there's just a culture there now where, it's too easy for them to lose games, and then you see them coming out, on to the next one and all this rubbish, and just show it on the pitch, show some character and fight on the pitch, and it doesn't seem to be that. Being from Liverpool but spending so many years at Man United, I want the club to do well.
For years, the club carried the weight of expensive flops. Big names who became nothing more than VIP spectators in the Sir Alex Ferguson stand. That era of bloated squads and wasted millions is over at least. That's the message this transfer window has sent. Chelsea might celebrate landing Alejandro Garnacho for £40 million, but United are just as pleased. It's the biggest sale ever for an academy player and proof that even the crown jewels can be cashed in if the price is right. Marcus Rashford has gone too, with Barcelona covering his full wages for the season. That alone frees up space and silence around Old Trafford. Then there's Antony, once an £86 million signing, now shipped off to Real Betis for just £21.7 million. A brutal fall from grace, but a necessary one. Rasmus Højlund, the £72 million striker from Atalanta, has been sent to Napoli on loan with an obligation to buy for £43 million, provided the Italians reach the Champions League. Jadon Sancho is out as well, moving to Aston Villa on loan, with United recouping 80% of his wages and pocketing a solid loan fee. All told, the bomb squad has cost the club nearly £100 million in lost revenue. Painful numbers, but perhaps essential for the reset. The only survivor is Tyrell Malacia, who remains at Carrington after a failed deadline day switch to Elche. For once, United looked lighter, cleaner, less noise, less chaos, fewer distractions. Amorim now has a squad that feels like is not a museum of expensive mistakes. Now we need to talk about the midfield, the area that so many fans thought should have been United's top priority. And yet, in this transfer window, the club chose restraint. For once, they refused to repeat old mistakes.
The only thing I feel, if I'm being completely honest, is could you have used that money and put it on Adam Walton or a Baleba? Because your midfield is so disgusting. It's beyond a joke. Like, a midfielder would genuinely change your lives.
Carlos Baleba was there, shining bright as the kind of midfielder who would have fitted Amorim's system like a glove. His tackling, his dribbling, his ability to dominate duels all over the pitch. He looked perfect for Old Trafford. But Brighton demanded £100 million, and United said no. Not because Baleba wasn't worth the risk, but because the numbers didn't add up.
Baleba, his biggest thing for me is being able to transfer the ball from the back line in our back area through to the 8s and the 10s. Yeah. Either driving with it or turning and getting it and playing.
In another era, United would have thrown cash at the problem. Not this time. They are willing to wait. And then comes Kobbie Mainoo. Last season, he was England's golden boy, starting in a European Championship final at just 19. But under Amorim, he has struggled for minutes. Gary Neville even said it. I thought Mainoo could step up, but it's clear Amorim is not having him right now. The frustration has boiled over. In the last week of the window, Mainoo asked the club to explore an exit. The answer? A categorical no. United told him he is not for sale, he is not for loan, and he remains central to their long-term plan. Amorim has instead retooled Casemiro, fitter and sharper than he looked a year ago. Bruno Fernandes thrives next to him, pulling strings as captain, while Cunha often pushes into the number 10 role. On paper, United already have 4 full internationals in midfield, which is why the club argue they are not desperate to buy. But here's the truth, the perfect balance still isn't there. Mainoo's patience will be tested. Baleba will remain a dream until next summer, and United's midfield will continue to be a work in progress. Evolution, not revolution. That is the new mantra at Old Trafford. Now we need to talk about the best 11 Amorim can field after the transfer window closed. And we start, of course, with the goalkeepers, where the biggest question mark hangs over Old Trafford. 2 shaky seasons from Andre Onana have left United with no choice but to bring in real competition. Enter Senne Lammens, just 23 years old, but already carrying the kind of presence that forces the conversation. Officially, Onana remains the number 1, but with AFCON set to take him away mid-season, and with mistakes piling up far too often, Ruben Amorim may be tempted to accelerate the transition.
There we go. He's rubbish. He's absolutely rubbish. He's so bad in goal. I'd rather have bloody Casper the Ghost. He's absolutely in goal.
Lammens isn't just a stopgap, his reflexes, his reach, the way he spreads himself in one-on-one duels. It all feels reminiscent of a young David De Gea before his decline. Yes, the Premier League will test him, especially under the aerial bombardment of set pieces and crosses. But Lammens brings a calmness and authority that Bayender never truly provided.
Do United need to do a piece of business in goal in the next couple of days?
Yeah, yeah. Without doubt. Have you seen these two? Are you asking? Is that a trick question?
I'm a journalist, Ian. I'm asking a question.
For Amorim's United, stability starts at the back, and that means a real contest for the gloves has finally begun. From the back, Amorim is building a wall that looks very different from the old United. His system demands 3 defenders, who are not only strong in duels, but brave on the ball and capable of covering oceans of space. That's why Lenny Yoro is untouchable. His recovery speed and composure make him a guaranteed starter. Whenever fit, he is the rock this line is built on.
We interviewed him, didn't we, not long ago? And he's a student of the game. He sees his mistakes, he acknowledges his mistakes, and he tries to learn from those mistakes.
Around him, the picture gets more complex. Luke Shaw and Nussair Mazraoui bring the experience of fullbacks who know how to defend wide areas and step forward when needed. Their versatility makes them perfect for Amorim's blueprint, where centre-backs sometimes defend like fullbacks, and fullbacks often feel like midfielders. Lisandro Martinez, still on the road back from injury, could be the real difference maker once fully fit. His vision, his ability to thread vertical passes under pressure, and his left-footed balance would elevate United's build-up to another level. Until then, Amorim has relied on Matthijs de Ligt, who has stepped ahead of Harry Maguire with strong early season performances. This defensive unit is deep, but it is also a puzzle. Amorim's challenge is finding the right mix of pace, intelligence, and composure. Yoro is the anchor, but for United to dominate, the rest of the line must grow into his standard. Now we arrive at the wing-backs, the lungs of Ruben Amorim's system, and perhaps the most demanding roles in his entire 11. This is where United's ambition collides with its lack of depth. On the left, Patrick Dorg shoulders an enormous responsibility. At just 20 years old, he is asked to stretch the pitch, drive forward, and still track back with ferocity. His energy and attacking instincts are undeniable, but asking him to carry this burden for an entire season might be too much too soon. Amorim has experimented elsewhere. Nussair Mazraoui brings finesse and technical quality, while Diogo Dalot offers the grit of a more physical defender. Luke Shaw could be devastating in this role with his vision and passing range, but fitness concerns make him a fragile option in such a relentless position. On the right, there is a fascinating tactical wrinkle. Amorim loves to invert expectations. He has a fondness for left-footed players operating on the right. That's why we could see Amad Diallo linking up with Brian Mbeumo as an unconventional yet dangerous duo, slicing inside to create chaos. And then there is the wild card, newcomer Diego Leon. If he shines with the under-23s, Amorim might not hesitate to give him minutes, especially as the season grinds deeper. The truth is simple, playing wing-back here is a brutal job. These players must sprint, press and attack for 90 minutes every week. Rotation will be constant, but if Amorim finds the right balance, the wing-backs could transform United. And now we turn to the heart of the pitch, the midfield. For all the excitement of United's new faces, this remains the area with the biggest question marks. Ruben Amorim demands midfielders who are both warriors and creators. Players who can crunch into tackles but also ping 40-yard passes into the channels. Yet when you look at this squad, the fit isn't perfect. Bruno Fernandes is the undisputed leader, but his natural instincts are those of a playmaker, not a box-to-box destroyer. Amorim has pushed him deeper, but the Portuguese still roams, still gambles, still plays with fire. Next to him stands Casemiro, a titan of the past, but at 33 his legs no longer cover the ground like they once did in Madrid. His mind is sharp, but his body betrays him in open spaces. Behind them lurks a pairing full of promise, Kobbie Mainoo and Manuel Ugarte. Mainoo has that silk, the ability to twist out of pressure with the calm of a veteran. Ugarte, by contrast, brings the bite, the aggression, the willingness to fight for every blade of grass. But between them, there's a missing link. Neither offers the aerial dominance nor the consistent long passing that Amorim craves to unlock his wing-backs and advanced forwards. There's also Mason Mount. He's intelligent, tireless, and Amorim has hinted he could be deployed centrally to patch the gaps. Yet Mount is a stopgap solution, not the long-term fix. And then, somewhere in the shadows, is Sekou Kone, just 19, recovering from a serious head injury, but with a passing range that turns heads in the academy. Amorim sees potential in him, and perhaps by season's end, the youngster could emerge as an unexpected answer. For now though, this midfield is both intriguing and flawed. It carries the spark of brilliance, but also the weight of uncertainty. And in the Premier League, that is a dangerous gamble. Now we need to talk about the creative heartbeat of Amorim's United, the number 10 role. It's here where the new signings have truly transformed the picture. More than £150 million was spent to bring in Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, and that money is already reshaping the way United attack. Cunha carries the ball with intent, driving through lines and linking play in ways last season's options simply couldn't. His intelligence has even elevated others. Patrick Dorgu at wing-back, for instance, suddenly looks sharper because Cunha recognises his overlapping runs and slips him into space without hesitation. Mbeumo offers something entirely different. His delivery is a weapon. Left-footed corners whipped with venom are now a set-piece nightmare, and defenders like Lini Yoro are thriving, attacking his in-swingers at the far post. This is the kind of subtle but crucial upgrade that changes matches, and yet depth remains one of Amorim's greatest luxuries. Mason Mount, tireless and clever, is a manager's dream. He runs for two, pressing relentlessly, covering gaps and freeing teammates to focus on damage in the final third. Injuries may interrupt his rhythm, but when fit, he's indispensable. There's also Amad Diallo, who has already shown he can operate effectively as a right-sided creator, offering balance and unpredictability when rotations are needed. And looming in the background is Bruno Fernandes. The captain has been nudged deeper this season, but Amorim always has the option to unleash him back into his natural habitat as a number 10. If Cunha or Mount falter, Bruno can step forward, while Mainu slots alongside Casemiro in midfield. Now let's move into the number 9 role, the tip of Amorim's spear. Benjamin Sesko arrived with high expectations and a heavy price tag, but he's still sharpening his edge. At just 22, the Slovenian striker carries raw pace, a knack for intelligent runs, and the kind of presence defenders hate to face. We've seen flashes of his straight-line speed and his clever movement inside the box, but the question remains, can he turn those glimpses into the consistent goals United are crying out for? Amorim is betting that time and patience will transform him into a ruthless finisher. Waiting in the wings is Joshua Zirkzee, the self-proclaimed 9.5. Unlike Sesko, Zirkzee doesn't live on the shoulder of the last defender. He drifts deep, links play, and thrives on combining with teammates. He's less about volume of goals and more about unlocking others. Amorim has challenged him to be more selfish, to take his chances rather than always creating for those around him. If he answers that call, he could become the perfect foil in United's unpredictable attack. And then there's the wild card, Chida Obi Martin, young, fearless, and still learning. But a reminder that United have one more card to play if fortune turns against them. This is the trio Amorim must rely on, one with the speed to stretch defences, one with the vision to connect the lines, and one who represents the future. But the Premier League is merciless and the test is simple. Can this mix of talent, youth and promise deliver the goals to carry United back where they belong?